Ernesto Köhler's Adagio patetico is the 10th Flute Etude in his Opus 33, Book 2. It's also featured in the second volume of Melodious and Progressive Studies for the flute and is one of this year's TMEA All-State Band Audition Etudes. In this video, I'll be performing this beautiful etude for you and giving you a mini tutorial with some things to think about should you be working on this etude yourself. If you'd like to skip ahead to the tutorial part, please check out the chapters in the description of this video. But first, a performance. Let's start with some big picture ideas for this etude. First of all, let's take a look at the time signature. The whole etude is in 6/8. However, the opening adagio, it's going to be in a slow 6 with the 8th note getting the beat. So about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then at measure 30, when it goes to Ancora più mosso, it's going to be in more of a 2 feeling. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. The key signature in the opening adagio is A minor, with no sharps or flats. However, when we move to the Ancora più mosso section in 2, that's going to move to A major with 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. The patetico in the title looks a lot like the English word pathetic. However, it doesn't really mean pathetic in the way that we use it. Instead, it means something more like stern or emotionally charged. And this is backed up even further by the composer's indication in the first measure, con molto espressione, which means with much expression. In the opening Adagio in A minor, it's going to feel a little bit heavier and more somber, and then it's going to transition to something that's a little bit happier and lighter in the A major Ancora più mosso. You can think of playing this piece almost like going on a journey, starting off in a place where life is tough, everything's a struggle, and then all of a sudden realizing that everything's going to be okay in the end. One of the keys to playing this etude well is to make sure that your rhythm is solid, and you should start by mapping out the rhythm in every measure. In the opening Adagio section, see if you can find where each of the 6 beats is, and in some measures this can be more difficult than others. Let's take the first 2 measures as an example, and for now I'm going to leave out the ornaments, which means leaving out the little turn as well as the grace notes. So the rhythm in the first 2 measures is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rest. So I'm going to go ahead and play that again without the ornaments with a metronome. Now that I have my rhythmic framework, I'm going to go ahead and figure out those ornaments. Looking at that little turn in the first measure with the sharp underneath, the notes that we're supposed to play after the E are F natural, E, D sharp, E. So first you're going to start by holding out the E, then F, E, D sharp, E, A. So let's just practice that out of rhythm. So you're going to want to fit those notes in after the 3rd beat. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, off. Similar to the first measure, in the second measure, you're going to want to fit in those grace notes again after the 3rd eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, off. Let's now look at the rhythm for the second measure, and first we'll start by leaving out the ornaments. So without the ornaments, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, a 4, 5, a 6, and a 1. Let me repeat that. 1, 2, 3, a 4, 5, a 6, and a 1. Now let's look at the ornaments and think about what notes we're supposed to play. For that first turn after the A, you're going to play B, A, G sharp, A. So in context but out of rhythm, it's going to be starting on the A. And for the next turn following the D, we're just going to play a E, D, and C sharp in a triplet rhythm. So the rhythm including the ornaments is going to be 1, 2, 3, a 4, triplet 5, a 6, and a 1. Let me repeat that. 1, 2, 3, a 4, triplet 5, a 6, and a 1. That can be a little bit tricky and a little bit complicated to think about, so just be patient with yourself and go over that a bunch of times until you feel really comfortable. Let's now take a look at those sextuplets in measure 7. And to make sure that you're playing those at the right speed, you're going to want to start subdividing a couple beats in advance, starting on the G sharp. If this is our tempo, 4, 5, 6, subdivided, it's 4 and 5 and 6 and then we're just going to put a triplet on each of those subdivisions. So coming in from the first beat, 1, 2 and 3 and triplet, 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 triplet. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4, 5, rest. The rallentando at the end of measure 7, of course, means that you should slow down. And especially I like to take time with the largest interval, which is the E to the F, which is more than an octave. So by slowing down a little bit, it gives me a little bit of extra time to make sure that that interval is just right. Then, of course, we have to go back to the original tempo at A tempo in the next measure. In measure 9, you'll see the indication forte piena voce. And piena voce means full-voiced, meaning resonant and with a full tone. Looking at the ornament in measure 11, the notes you play after G are going to be A, G, F sharp, and G, then going up to an F natural. Out of rhythm, in rhythm, 1, 2, yada yada 3, a 4. In measure 17, we see the marking forte ma dolce, meaning forte with a full volume, but also dolce, or sweetly. So that just means that you don't want to be too aggressive on your forte. You want to make sure that you maintain that sweet singing character while also adding more volume and presence to the sound. The ornaments in measure 17 through 19 are going to be the same as in the opening, but just an octave above. Looking at measure 21, you see we arrive at forte, and you have a scale going up to the A, and then it says come echo on the second time. And that just means like an echo. So it means you want to play a little bit softer. However, you then just have the sixth beat, da 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 dee, da dee, to bring the volume back up to that mezzo forte. So I like to stretch just a little bit there and make a big crescendo on that A in the sixth beat. Looking at the end of measure 22, we see the marking stentate, which means laborious and heavy with lots of effort. Now, if I were going to play it just normal with no stentate, it might sound something like this. If I were going to add some stentate to those last 4 notes, it would sound something like this. You see that I'm putting more physicality, more effort, more energy into every single note, and that's what gives it that stentate feeling. In measure 24, un POCO PIU MOSSO, which means to move it forward just a little bit, means to get a little bit quicker. And then at the end of measure 27, you see stringendo, which also means to get quicker. So that means that throughout this section, the tempo just keeps pushing and inching forward. It wants to get faster and faster and more excited. At measure 30, at the key change, we have the markings ancora più mosso, which means even faster, and con passione, which means passionately. So we see we've started with this character that's very inward, very brooding and moody. And over the course of this etude, it's developed and grown. And finally, when we get to the key change, it's ready to explode with energy and with passion. At the pickup to measure 38, make sure that you bring the volume down so that you have somewhere to grow from. And then we're going to see accelerando e crescendo. So then it's going to get louder and it's going to get faster until it reaches the climax and then comes down to the fermata on the low E. That's the low E at the beginning of measure 42, by the way, which starts the beginning of the cadenza, which he marks ad lib or ad libitum, which means at your pleasure, meaning that you have freedom to play with the tempo a little bit and take time if you want to. Typically in short cadenzas like this, I'm going to start a little bit slower and speed up a little bit towards the middle of the cadenza and then slow down a bit at the end. Finally, in measure 46, we return back into time and just go out lightly to the end. As you work on this etude, some things to focus on. Number 1, rhythm. Number 2, beauty of tone. And number 3, character. Putting character into the music that you're playing, making sure that you're getting that real patetico, very emo and brooding quality in the first section, which then transforms into a light and beautiful and happy feeling at the end. Ideally, you want the listener to feel like they've come along on a journey with you. I hope this mini tutorial has given you a few things to think about if you're working on this etude. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, please let me know by giving it a like and in the comments. Please check out my sheet music and merchandise at lansuzuki.com/store. Also, for more informational and inspirational flute content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell as well. Thanks for watching.